kahit na holiday, we are very grateful to the media for joining us. May nagsabi nga sa media, uy, holiday sana. Pero sa gobyerno yata, we have people na holiday nagtatapaho pa, and from the private sector. Welcome to Pandesal Forum here at 84-year-old Kamuning Bakery Cafe. We have a very important topic today. It's a very unique and very progressive advocacy. Our topic today is urban farming and peri-urban farming in the Philippines. Ang tawag sa Tagalog dito, agrikultura sa kalunsuran para sa masaganang kinabukasan. Agriculture in the urban areas for a more prosperous future. Ang ano natin dito, National Urban and Peri-Urban Agriculture Program advocates. I will properly introduce every speaker here later on. Every one of them will give an opening statement about urban farming and peri-urban agriculture. Then we welcome questions from the media. I'll mention their names muna, pero later on I'll introduce them one by one. Of course, we have here former Secretary of Agriculture, Dr. William D here. Yes. And all the way from a very hectic trip in South Korea, pero he is a civic leader who is very supportive of agriculture. Dr. Cecilio Pedro, President, Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Inc., FFCCCIII, Dr. Cecilio Pedro. Fresh from South Korea, hectic trip niya. Of course, we have from the government, from the Department of Agriculture, he is the Director of the Bureau of Plant Industry, BPI, Dr. Gerald Panganiban. Representing academe, all the way from University of Arizona, a professor there in Biosystems Engineering. Let us welcome Professor Dr. Joel L. Cuello. These are our speakers. Later on, each one will give an opening statement, and then please get ready with your questions. Before I call them, I'd like to acknowledge some special guests. We have a special guest from academe, all the way from New York, a balik scientist here in the Philippines, Dr. Gonzalo Al Serafrica. Yes, andun siya sa likod. Also another balik scientist, professor from University of Illinois, Professor Gil Mendoza. Over there, supporting also this advocacy. We have a civic leader, a woman's rights leader from Mindanao, Miss Samira Goto. She wants to support the advocacy also for Mindanao region. Now I'd like to call on our panelists to give their opening statement about urban agriculture and peri-urban agriculture. Ano ba to? Anong kinabukasan nito, and what are their plans and proposals? Of course, Dr. William D is very outstanding former Agriculture Secretary, Senior Advisor and Advocate of the Go Negosyo Kapatid Angat Lahat Agriculture Program. Let us welcome Dr. William D for his opening statement.
Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat. Okay, maraming salamat. Sige po. Many thanks, Wilson, for the kind introduction. Well, presently I am representing here today Go Negosyo, Kapatid Angat Lahat Agri Program. This is a platform where the industry, the big brother, so to speak, in agriculture is in partnering with Go Negosyo as the conduit with government. So, kagaya po sa BPI, Department of Agriculture, may mga big brothers that are really working together to really support the farming sector, particularly in this case, the vegetable industry, the fruits industry, and many other commodity industries. Now, in relation to the topic today, on two occasions, I was Secretary of Agriculture. First, during the time of ERA, 1998, we started putting up an urban agriculture program here in Quezon City. So that continues to be going on up until today. The second occasion was when I was Secretary of Agriculture during the time of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. I can still vividly remember during the Bureau Plant Industry Anniversary, January 17 of 2020, where I declared and advocated that an urban agriculture program be started. And this is way before the COVID-19 pandemic, officially starting March 16, 2020. So that's how I really give importance to urban agriculture, to peri-urban agriculture, because, you know, the country, if you look at how we are faring in terms of vegetable production, fruit production, there are times of the year that we don't have much because of the typhoons that visit us. An average of 20 typhoons, about 5 of them very, very destructive. So, Benguet being the vegetable capital of the country, once having a strong typhoon, the vegetables are wiped out. In the same manner, for other provinces, Ilocos region, Cagayan Valley, and other regions, southern Tagalog, when a big typhoon is affecting the country, particularly these regions, then you will have again the problem of supply of fruits and vegetables. And that's how prices are going up after the event, the climatic event. So that's one key rationale why we have put in place institutionalizing again urban agriculture. And when I was Secretary of Agriculture during the time of President Duterte, because of these repeated experiences, minabuti po natin na peri-urban agriculture is as important because of logistics. You know, you have problems of transporting these vegetables and fruits from faraway provinces. So it would be the best of arrangements if we develop vegetable and fruit growing areas around. That's why they call peripheral urban, peri-urban agriculture is such a critical agriculture, type of agriculture, because you are nearest where the demand is needed. So, from all these revelations, you can see that I am really strongly supporting urban and peri-urban agriculture, and good, Glenn and the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Plant Industry are still continuing this program. But the only problem today, meanwhile, is the very limited budget given the program. You know, rice-centric agriculture pa rin tayo ngayon. About 60-65% of the budget in agriculture is devoted to rice. While I agree that must be the level, but when there are opportunities for significantly increasing the budget of agriculture, you have to really invest largely and significantly to high value agriculture, and that should be a big direction the government must undertake. Thank you and good day.
William Dar. I forgot to mention that he is not only from the academe and from the government before. He has won many awards for agriculture advocacy here and other countries. Thank you, Dr. William Dar. Next, for his opening statement, the leader behind the program of National Urban and Peri-Urban Agriculture Program. He is the director. He is also director of Bureau of Plant Industry, also High Value Crops Development Program Director. Dr. Gerald F. Panganiban is an expert agriculturist, agribusiness professional who has pioneered multiple projects in the industry. He is director of NUPAP, also behind the Livelihood Education Rehab Center, Bureau of Corrections, and many others. He will share with us what is the National Urban and Peri-Urban Agriculture Program of the Department of Agriculture and how the private sector and all sectors could support. Let us welcome Dr. Gerald F. Panganiban.
Thank you, sir, for that very generous introduction, and magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ken po from the BPI. Well, the Urban Agriculture Program, sabi na nga po ni Wilson, ni former Secretary Dar, na ito po ay ginagawa na natin historically, from the 70s pa nga yata, sir. 70s and then 90s and then back again in COVID. But just like to compliment yung binanggit na kanina, na it's I think it's a way of sustainable living because we know yun nga, yung mga volatilities natin sa market. At least if we produce in the cities, in our own communities, in our own backyards, mabawasan na yung ating food basket from mga pwede nating produce na gulay. Second, after having that information and having that encouragement of participation from the individuals, is looking at the markets na. We are partners with the private sector, with the non-government organizations, and with other government agencies para ma-sustain yung programa. Nabanggit natin, meron from the 70s, 90s, and then from the past COVID experience. But what we want to have is really a sustainable program moving forward. Nabanggit kanina na yun nga, yung budget ay limited pa. Actually, na-budgetan lang yung program, itong administration ni President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And we're very thankful for him for having this support for the project. At ito ay nilaunch namin together with other agencies ng government, yung DILG partner natin, yung DOJ partner na natin dito. So because we want to really upscale, and if not upscale, is to engage the private sector and the technology providers so that we can realize kung ano ba talaga itong technologies na pwedeng maka-benefit sa ating mas malaking citizenry, of course. We want to have a food production system in every barangay, sana ang ating objective, But we know na hindi yun kaagad-kaagad magagawa, so we want to have demo farms. We want to have businesses share their best practices, and really meron bang dito, meron bang future dito, and entrepreneurship side, sabi nga ni sir, it's what the demand of the markets that can sustain, so if we have urban farms na naandyan for the individual households, if we have urban farms there or community farms for the communities and the barangays, and if we have that upscale production systems, yung ang tawag doon, sir, alternative food production systems through controlled environment farming man yan, or rooftop farming, or vertical farming, that we can produce to complement. I'm saying complement, hindi to replace. Kasi yun din ang criticism. Baka daw ma-replace yung production system o yung demand for the rural production. Yun yung goal ng programa. And I think for the past 2-3 years, marami na tayong naging partners, so the critical mass is there already. Pangalawa, yung technologies, dahil nga marami nang gumagamit, siguro bumababa na ang cost. Siguro yung pangatlo na lang siguro is yun nga, yung ating partnerships to really lower yung inputs. Kasi ngayon, ang problema is mataas na energy cost and all that, the input cost. But with yung critical mass at yung ating mga participants, mga technology developers na gumagawa nito, mga businesses na engaged, I think it can encourage other people, other businesses, and maybe possibly investors here and abroad to invest on urban farms and controlled environment farming. So I think this is in relation and this is towards the direction din ng ating bagong secretary, Francisco Chulo Red Jr., na siya ay tingnan natin ano ba yung information na meron tayo, ano ba yung demand natin, nasaan ba yan, saan ba strategic ilagay yung ating mga investment. So I think with this alternative food production system can complement yung ating mga existing na production systems in the rural area. So yun lamang po at we hope na patuloy nyo kaming suportahan sa pag-encourage nito at pag-disseminate ng information about urban and peri-rural agriculture program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gerald Panganiban, for giving us an overview of government plans. By the way, our next speaker is Dr. Cecilio K. Pedro. He is President of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Inc., FFCCCIII, who has an ongoing partnership also with the BPI of Dr. Panganiban. FFCCCIII under Dr. Pedro hopes to encourage pioneering of tea farming in Benguet area. Dr. Cecilio Pedro is also founder, more well known as founder and CEO of Lamoyan Corporation, which produces, manufactures Happy toothpaste and mouthwash and other products including Camtech. He is also a philanthropist who is helping deaf mutes and also education advocacy. Unknown to many people, Dr. Pedro, the industrialist, also supports Philippine agriculture, and he told us this morning at breakfast, he is personally a farmer in Trece Martires, Cavite, and in Palawan. Let us welcome for his opening statement, Dr. Cecilio K. Pedro, FFCCIII President.
Thank you very much, Wilson, for the kind introduction. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po'y nagagalag, sumama rito sa pag-usapan ng agriculture. Sabi ni Wilson, farmer daw ako, but first and foremost, I'm a trader, a negosyante. I like negosyo with Secretary Dar, and I like plants with our Director of Plant Industry, Director Glenn. Of course, I like academics because it's the key. You learn first from academics kay Joel, Dr. Joel. So whatever you learn, you implement. Kami mga negosyante, very practical, very practical. We look first for what is profitable at the end of the day. Kailangan kumita ka, no? Yung mga farmers natin, nagtatanim, pag walang kita, kawawa sila, namamatay. Tinatapon yung mga produkto nila. Pumunta kayo sa Benguet. Pag low season, tinatapon nila yung mga vegetable dahil mas mahal. Idala nila sa Maynila dahil our logistical cost is so expensive. Okay? Pero ibang usapan yon. But my opening statement here is I'm happy to be with all of these gentlemen together with all of you with media because kayo ang pag-asa ng bayan, media. Kayo ang magsasabi kung ano ang dapat namin gawin at ano ang dapat maging daanan ng mga private, public 5 P daw eh. Private, public, academics, si Director Serafica. Marami pang sinabi dyan eh, hindi ko nakuha lahat eh. But anyway, it's a very tough job. Kailangan tumulong lahat. Okay? Unahin natin yung direction. Ano ang direction ang gagawin natin? Food security. Yung kinakain natin dapat should be local, hindi imported. Pumunta ka sa Divisoria, halos lahat imported. Pati carrots, pati sibuyas, bawang. Bakit? They can produce at a lower price in China, in Vietnam, in Thailand than us. So we end up buying their products. Pag binabawal ng gobyerno, smuggling naman ang kalaban. Ang daming problema ng bayan. Pero, bilib ako sa Pilipino, magaling ang Pinoy. Kaya lang, we have to put our acts together. Kailangan sama-sama. Together with the government, together with the academics, and the private sector. Kami mga negosyante, mga people involved in business, we are willing to invest. Okay? We are willing to invest. As long as we can see that it's going to be profitable in the future. Kailangan kumita, no? Pag nalugi ang negosyante, nobody will go into it. At the end of the day, it's about making a little profit so we can sustain the operation. Ito bang pag-usapan natin hanggang bukas na yan, walang katapusan yan. But first and foremost, I'm very happy to be here with this distinguished gentleman seated beside me. Sila ang tunay na doktor. Ako, binigyan lang ako ng honoris causa. No? Hindi ako tunay na doktor. Doktor ako, But anyway, I've been exposed to all of this over the last 50 years in business. I've been in business for the last 50 years. Matanda na po tayo. So, I'm happy to report that there is future in the Philippines. Ang Pilipino, magaling. Ang problema lang natin, sama-sama. Ayusin natin ang bayan natin. Umunlad tayo dahil ang Pilipino dapat ay umunlad dahil magaling ang Pinoy. Huwag kayo maniwala na bobo ang Pinoy. Hindi po totoo yun. Magaling ang Pinoy. But we have to put our acts together. We have to help one another. Each sector will have to contribute something towards a main objective, which is food security. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
For his opening statement and his strong support for the National Urban and Peri-Urban Farming Program. Last but not the least, we have from the academe invited by Director Panganiban all the way from University of Arizona, Dr. Joel L. Cuello is a professor in Biosystems Engineering, also Vice Chairman of the International Association for Vertical Farming. He will explain to us what we can do here in the Philippines. He is also Director of the Graduate Studies for Interdisciplinary Applied Biosciences, Bioeconomy and New Food Systems at the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. Yung International Association for Vertical Farming, of which he is Vice Chairman, is based in Munich, Germany. Our guest, Dr. Cuello, is a globally recognized expert in engineering sustainable biological and agricultural systems. He has more than 33 years experience in research, teaching, and outreach in innovating controlled environment agriculture, CEA, for sustainable production of food and high-value bioproducts. He has a very long biodata. I'm not mentioning everything, but he has published over 80 referred journal publications, 12 book chapters, and he has delivered over 600 professional presentations around the world about this topic that we need in the Philippines today. I'm summarizing his very long biodata. Thank you for coming, Professor Joel Cuello, for your opening statement. Welcome.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Thank you so much, Wilson, and thank you to Wilson Flores for organizing this forum, of course, Pandesal Forum, and thank you to the Kamuning Baker and Cafe for welcoming us. And of course, thank you to all the members of the press for taking the time during this holiday to be here this morning. So I thought I'd just give an introduction in terms of a brief background about vertical farming, urban farming. So urban farming and peri-urban farming has two kinds. One is open air, which is the regular farming. The other one is indoor farming, which is also known as controlled environment agriculture. There are two types of controlled environment agriculture. One is greenhouse, which is regular greenhouse. The other one is known as vertical farming, which is the more modern incarnation or version of a greenhouse. So in a vertical farm, you have typically a warehouse type of building, and inside you have shelves that are stacked vertically upwards. And that's where you're growing the plants. And typically the plants are grown not using soil, but using liquid nutrient solutions. It's a process known as hydroponics. So you're able to save tremendously on land because you are going upwards. And you also save on nutrients because the nutrients are dissolved in the water, and you recirculate the water until all the nutrients in the water are assimilated or consumed by the plants. So it's a sustainable and efficient method. At the same time, you have the freedom to control the environment inside in terms of temperature, relative humidity, and light. And therefore, you can produce crops at the highest productivity and efficiency. And you can do this 24/7, 365 days a year. Theoretically independent of geography, independent of climate, independent of weather, independent of season. So that's the real power behind vertical farming. So a little bit of history. The space program, NASA, was the first one to really develop the idea of vertical farming because in the future they plan on sending manned mission, say on the moon and Mars. And for the mission to be feasible, they have to stay there for some time, like in Mars, at least 2 years. So to make that happen, it's not possible for the astronauts to bring all the water, all the food, all the oxygen that they will need. So the solution there is for the astronauts on Mars to be able to produce crops in situ or on location. And the only way that they could do that is by having a controlled environment system because as you know, there's no oxygen on Mars. The temperature is swinging wildly. There's deadly radiation impacting the surface of Mars. So the only way to do this is in a controlled environment system. So I had the privilege of doing my postdoctoral fellowship at NASA Kennedy Space Center. And I did research precisely in this area. It's called the Controlled Ecological Life Support Systems Division, or space farming, if you will. And Japan was the very first country that took advantage of this technology to commercialize it for Earth applications. So Japan started vertical farms. They called them plant factories in the beginning, but they started in the 1980s. And over the 90s, the 2000s, and even today, they have a lot of vertical farms in operation in Japan. And it makes sense in Japan because Japan, as you know, is very limited in terms of their arable land. So today, globally, vertical farming has emerged, and it's now commercialized in North America, in the United States and Canada, parts of Europe, in Australia, in the Middle East, in Singapore, and even here in the Philippines. Actually, there's a few vertical farming companies now in operation, including in Makati. So and then here's another context. The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization made a projection that for us to be able to meet the global demand for food by 2050, we have to increase our food production by 70%. And in terms of crop production, we have to double it. So that means we have to increase it by 100%. But food production is already consuming 70% of all freshwater withdrawals worldwide. And it's already utilizing about half of all habitable land. And in fact, it's utilizing about 30% of all energy expenditures. So if we're going to double our crop production in a matter of years by 2050, the biggest question is, well, where do we get our extra fresh water? Where do we get our land? There's not available enough resources for this. So this is why we need to innovate, and one such innovation is vertical farming. So that is the rationale for vertical farming. And then on top of that, I'd like to add the global demand for fresh vegetables market revenue this year, 2023, is valued at about 750 billion, that's a B, US dollars, 750 billion US dollars. The share of the Philippines, the revenue of the Philippines for fresh vegetables market is only about 7.5 billion US dollars. I mean, compare that with a total of 750 billion US dollars. It's minuscule, it's a small amount. And the Philippines is a tropical country, and it is well poised to increase its vegetable production. But of course, we are living in the era of climate change. And people around the Philippines, they're complaining about the changing weather patterns. And in fact, some farmers in Bukidnon, they were growing traditionally, green peppers and all these high-value crops outdoors, and now they're no longer able to do that because of the precipitation increase and heat. And so they have to be able to do what they used to do for many, many years, now inside a rudimentary form of greenhouse. That is controlled environment. And so for urban agriculture really to prosper, we need to incorporate some forms of vertical farming as well, or indoor farming, so that it will be climate resilient. I think I'd like to end with that. Thank you.
Interesting overview of how technology can help urban farming and peri-urban farming. We are open for questions from the media. Please raise your hand. Ayun, meron na. Please kindly introduce yourself. Yes.
Rambo Labay ng DCXL, RMN. Nasimulan itong urban farming o urban agriculture, kung hindi ako nagkakamay, nabanggit kung ang pagkakalam ko doon sa pandemya. At napakaganda ito. Nakita ko itong urban na nabanggit din ni Sir na kailangan sustainable. 2050, meron tayong pagkain. Ang problema, nakikita ko, mahalaga rin yung negosyo eh. Ang utak ng mga Pilipino, kikita ba ako niyan? Kikita ba ako niyan? Meron ba ako niyan? Yan ang ano ng mga Pilipino eh. So urban, itong atin, anong dahilan Sir? Bakit pandemya pa, parang ilan lang yung tagumpay dito, yung Quezon City, yung sa Barangay Holy Spirit, meron silang ilan yung lugar. At saan nagkaroon ng problema doon? Yung mentalidad ba ng mga Pilipino o gobyerno ba o yung holistic approach? Lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno, katulad ng binabanggit, magkaisa tayo. Kasi sinimula ng matagal na, pero wala eh. Parang ningas kugon. Umpisa, mainit, ang sarap. Pero hanggang tumatagal, nawala na, tayo na. So saan dapat natin, kailangan natin ma-educate din eh. Kailangan natin ma-educate ng Pilipino na ito, sustainable hanggang 2050, dapat kikita tayo. At the same time, hindi tayo magugutom. Ano ang nakita niyo problema, Sir? Si Director Gerald, Sir.
Okay, thank you. Salamat sa napakainit mo rin tanong.
Okay, Sir.
Alam naman natin yan. Ikaw na rin ang nagsabi. Ayaw kong pagsabi ng gano'n. Ako, hindi ako naniniwalang ningas kugol lang ang Pilipino. Ako, naniniwala akong Pilipino is very enterprising. Nababanggit kanina ni Sir, kailangan may kita. And I think because of that pandemic, nagkaroon tayo kasi ng time doon eh. Kaya mainit talaga. Everyday, dami nang hihingin seats everyday. But again, nag-open na yung market natin eh. So, ang mga nagtagumpay is yung mga naka-organize. Ang Pilipino, magaling yan talaga individually. Lalo na pag in-organize. So, yung mga organized groups, sila yung nagtagumpay. It's either led by the LGUs, it's either led by private sector, or yung mga social enterprises natin. Meron din tayo doon sa Metagig, led by social enterprise. So, ang ibig ko sabihin, kung meron silang nakikitang gain from their activity, doon magtutuloy-tuloy yan. That's why ang aming mga pinapartner is yung organized groups mostly. Of course, tuloy pa rin yung ating serbisyo para sa mga individual families na naghahanap. Ayan, namimigay pa rin kami ng mga seeds. But it's really directing them to where the gain is, where the market is. Kaya nakipag-partner kami doon sa mga malalaking malls dito sa atin. Isa yan, naging partner natin. Pangalawa, yung mga itong urban and peri-urban, ibig ko sabihin yung mga nasa mga kalapit probinsya ng mga cities ay sinecertify natin as mga GAP certified or good agricultural practice kasi sila yung nagko-comply sa mga requirements ng mga malalaking institutions like like yung Jollibee, meron na silang mga kinikater from our certified farms, yung good agricultural practices. And then pangatlo nga, we are trying to connect doon sa mga malalaking investors, yung stories ng urban farming, like yung tinulungan namin sir, yung PWDs dito sa may malaria center, isang magandang practice yun. Pangalawa, yung partnership namin with DOJ, with the Bureau of Corrections. Malaki ang nakikita naming production volume doon. So, ibig sabihin, kung hindi man siya sa negosyo, it could be a help to our government kung makabawas sa gastos ng ating pamahalaan. Sa halip na mabigay, di sila na yung nagpo-produce. So, it's all about yun nga. Yung sustainability will come maybe from the profit or the gain. I think yung expertise na naandyan. Kasi ang susunod na natin, sir, is yung mga young individuals natin, Kaya kami, with the schools, with the universities, amin din itong tinatap para naman sila ay mag-adapt din ng ating mga technology.
Sir, last tanong para sa akin. Ano ang vision nyo simula ngayon to 2050 na itong urban farming hindi na kayo kailangan mag-angkat pa? Meron nating sariwa. Kasi kaya ko nabanggit to, meron akong nabili, hindi ko nabanggitin yung palengke. Yung kamatis, sinasabi nga na Sir mura nga, but then isang buwan na, nilagay namin doon sa mobile namin, isang buwan na hindi nabubulok. Isang buwan na. Ibig sabihin, may nilalagay doon kung ano yon. So, kailangan natin yung sariwa. At sariwa, at the same time, mura. Sa tingin nyo, Sir, ano ang dapat na gawin ng ahensya ng pamahalaan at sa mga stakeholder, mga negosyante, para sama-sama tayo tulong paano natin maikumbinsi itong ating mga kababayan na ang target nila, at the same time, bukod sa kumita na sila, yung mga maliliit, ang target natin, hindi na tayo magugutom. Tinagurian tayo ng agriculture country, pero nag-aangkat tayo, parang nakakahiya yata sa bansa natin. So, paano natin matitiyak, ipagmamalaki sa buong mundo na talagang pangangatawan na tayo ay talagang agricultural country at hindi natin nagugutom. Salamat siya.
Let me compliment what has been given by Glenn. Sustaining this program calls for a whole of society approach. Hindi lang gobyerno, hindi lang pribadong sektor, but lahat po. It's the culture, it's the attitude of every Filipino. Kasi alam natin, ang every Filipino consumes about 60 or so kilos of vegetables a year, while other countries nasa 120 na. So nasa median po tayo. So ang ibig sabihin, it's still a long way yet to go. And it has to be a sustained campaign and capacity building for us to really grow enough vegetables and fruits for society. Na, of course, you consider all the problems or the objectives of, say, profit. May kita ba yan? Ang mga negosyante, mga entrepreneurs ay gusto nila kikita naman pag nasa mas lalo agrikultura. Kasi let me also characterize what is Philippine agriculture today in relation to what we are discussing. Alam niyo, may problema pa rin tayo in general when it comes to inviting more private sector like the likes of Dr. Pedro. Mabuti, mayroon siyang farm at sumusubok na rin, pero hindi pa rin natutuwa kasi kulang pa kita niya. So, ang cost of production natin mataas. Kasi hindi natin, wala sa ating control yung agricultural inputs, fertilizers, pesticides. Saan po galing yan lahat? Abroad. So, we need now, with climate change, nasabi na kanina, with the impacts of climate change, kasi sa climate change, in the future, because of that requirement to go to 70% more food to be produced, ay yung water resources mo naman ay lacking, physically lacking in the future. So the more now that new innovations must be started, and innovations like vertical farming as part of urban agriculture will be key to producing more in the future. But again, it all boils down to economics. Kikita ba yung entrepreneur kung pupunta doon? Now, in Go Negosyo, we are part of the giving of solutions. Kami may mentoring program para sa mga gustong magnegosyo sa agrikultura. At kasama na yan sa urban agriculture. We have now, itong last 4 years, with the Kapatid Agri-Mentor Me program sa Go Negosyo, we have already trained almost 1,000 potential agripreneurs. At karamihan nito ay yung mga younger generation. Kasi we need to invest, empower the youth, bring them to agriculture, bring them to love agriculture, bring them to be part of the solution. So lahat yan, it's a combination of all of these approaches, hindi lang minsanan ito. It's a continuing capacity program and mind-setting, bringing a new culture towards producing our own food requirements.
Yes, thank you for that question. This question is more on the first one, actually. So all of us here are on the same page about one important thing, and that is agriculture is a business enterprise. And that includes, of course, urban farming, peri-urban agriculture, vertical farming, every type of indoor farming. And agriculture in general is business enterprise. And the first thing about business is that it has to be profitable. Because if it's not profitable, then that business will not exist for long. So number one, it has to be profitable. The thing about the Philippines is that a lot of farmers in the Philippines have for a long time been smallholders farmers. So in other words, they're acting individually on their own. And they have very limited land, and they have very limited resources or access to resources. And of course, they don't have much bargaining power. And so they are almost at the complete mercy of the middleman, right? So they're putting in their labor, they're putting in their blood, sweat, and tears, but in terms of the returns and the profit, it's not much. Because again, they don't have bargaining power. So one important thing, and we all agree on this, and I've been coordinating now with Director Glenn for a number of years now. I don't know how it began, but we've been coordinating, is that we fully agree that Filipino farmers need to be organized into associations or cooperatives. And this is one thing that I learned directly from the province of Leyte. The former governor, Governor Mick Petilla, after Yolanda hit Leyte, the first thing that he did was organize the farmers in Leyte into cooperatives or farmers associations. And then he brought in the Department of Agriculture, Department of Science and Technology to help them and to impart with them the technologies for growing high-value crops. And then once they have the technology on how to produce, he then next connected the growers to the market. So they can sell their produce to Jollibee, Mang Inasal, and all of these other businesses. So that's what I refer to as strategic agriculture. In other words, the grower, the farmer is connected to everything that he or she needs to be able to operate, and then ultimately connected to the market so that he or she can sell the produce and make profit. Because a lot of growers and farmers in the Philippines don't have that in existence. They just produce and then they're at the mercy of whoever buys the produce. But if the Filipino farmers could be organized, educated, informed as a business enterprise, they have the bargaining power, first of all, to be able to sell their produce to the best buyer. So that's one. That's a very important dimension of how to empower Filipino farmers to be able to become profitable. And I think that's key to food security as well for the country. So I thank Director Panganiban here for really promoting that and establishing programs to accomplish that.
Dr. Pedro.
I don't know where to begin. Alam niyo po, yung kita ang pinag-usapan dito, di ba? Yung mga farmers natin, no chance. No chance to get out of the hole, so to speak. Kasi ang liit, wala silang economics of scale. Ilan hectares lang yan, ano? Kung may inabutan sila ng seasonal drop, patay sila. Kikita lang sila kung mataas ang presyo. Pag hindi mataas, patay. So, yan ang number one problem. Kung ako ang hindi pwedeng magsabi kung ako ang secretary. It has to be a direction coming from the government. I was so excited when President Marcos of BBM decided to be the Secretary of Agriculture kasi he has the power to decide. Kailangan sabihin natin, itong agriculture, top priority. Pag may hindrance, tatanggalin ko yan. Pag may mga smuggling, tatanggalin ko yan. Pag may mga hazard, tatanggalin ko yan. It must be top priority of the government. And no hindrances will be put up to stop production. Okay? And then bibigyan ko ng land. Yung land reform, dapat yung land reform ay government land, hindi private land. Eh kumikita na eh, nag-produce na yung private land tapos kukunin mo, hindi tama yun. Ang dami natin private public lands na pwedeng i-reform. Yeah, yun ang dapat natin itulak. Yung Bucor, sinasabi natin. Yung Iwahe. And there are so many other lands, okay? In Vietnam, you don't own the land. It's owned by the government. In China, you don't own the land. The government will give you 1,000 hectares. You just come in and invest. Land is free. Eh dito, babayaran pa natin eh. You imagine you want to own 100 hectares, kung magkano babayaran mo, ubos na eh. No farmers can afford that. So how can you compete with the likes of China, Vietnam, Indonesia? Impossible, okay? So all of these problems will have to be addressed. Land is very crucial. And then you talk about the technology. May seeds. Ang mga seeds ngayon, pinag-aralan, ano? May fertilizer. Anong klaseng fertilizer? Bagay dito sa anong klaseng production, di ba? May kanya-kanyang fertilizer. Pinag-aralan yan eh. And dito they're going into space to make vegetable in space. Tayo dito sa Pilipinas, we cannot even do our vegetable production properly or high-tech. It's about AI. Galing ako sa Korea, it's all vertical farming. Eh sayang, nakaka-frustrate eh. Pero, pag-isipan natin, anong direksyon ang gusto natin? Anong priority natin? Based on this priority, these are the things you cannot do to stop production. The government will say, if you do this, I will put you in prison. Isasama kita sa Bucor. Okay? Kailangan, production should never be hindered by anyone. And we should help the farmers. Kung hindi, walang mangyayari sa farmers natin. Fertilizer, seeds, mechanization. Sa outside of the country, they are all highly mechanized. Thousands of hectares, all mechanized. Tayo mano-mano. How can we compete? Carabao, Carabao, wala. Mano-mano pa. Sa bundok, sa rice terraces, puro mano-mano. Pero we have so much land. I have to stop talking. Maraming problema. Pero ang direksyon, galing from the government, galing from the private sector. Kailangan kumita, kailangan may market. Thank you.
Thank you. Mabuti nabanggit na ni Joe at saka si Dr. Pedro yung pinaka-problema ng sektor ng agrikultura. Kasi you just not handle urban and peri-urban agriculture without considering the rest of the other parts of the sector. It is a complementary component of the whole food security program of government. Having said that, mabuti nabanggit na nila na ang land holdings ng bawat farmer dito sa ating bansa ay maliliit. An average of 1 hectare, even lower than that. So with that, how can you have profitable farming with all the problems of agricultural inputs? How can you lower the cost of producing a kilo of that produce? These are all the very material questions to ask. Wala tayong economies of scale. And that's why kailangan natin, nung nandyan ako sa agrikultura, ay pinapatupad po natin na starting yung farm clustering and consolidation. So that this will answer na, starting to answer the question of small land holdings via working together in a production operations, say a cluster or group of farmers, say in rice starting with 100 hectares or higher. Ganun po sa iba't ibang commodity. Even in vegetable production, meron tayong target na clustering of say 25 hectares. Again, for the benefit also that government services will be coursed through these groups or associations or cooperatives. So yun, from farm clustering, dapat ma-organize sila into becoming cooperatives. That's the way forward. Although we have had issues and problems of agricultural cooperatives in the past, it does not mean that we should set that aside already as a mechanism to really, again, re-engineer Philippine agriculture. So, clustering, cooperatives development, then you have the capacity, these cooperatives will now have the capacity to partner with private sector, go into good agribusiness, good agricultural enterprises. Kasi gusto rin tumulong ang pribadong sektor at yun po ang isang advocacy ng Go Negosyo. Itong big brothers natin ay nakipartner sa gobyerno para tulungan yung mga magsasaka natin, mas lalo na yung clustered farms or clustered farmers or cooperatives. And in doing that, kasama na sila sa market value chain ng pribadong sektor. Because market is one key determinant to being very profitable. So yun, may solusyon. Dapat i-elevate pa ng gobyerno itong mga strategies na ito para sa ganon ay itong competitive and sustainable Philippine agriculture will happen.
And other speakers for your answers. Thank you, Dr. Cuello. May tanong dito. Yes, may tanong dito from Mr. Lito Gagni, editor and also columnist of Business Mirror.
Napansin ko there is a rumbling within the private sector. I see the passionate take of Dr. Pedro. And alam ko, nabanggit kanina yung sa smuggling. Ang narinig ko, doon sa SPMA ngayon, tumaas ang cost of doing business there. What can you say about this smuggling? Ba't hindi ma-stop yung smuggling, sir?
Ang smuggling is a function of also profit. Diba? Nag-i-smuggle sila dahil kumikita sila. Bakit kumikita sila? Yung cost ng production in China, in Vietnam, in other parts of the world is much lower than the cost here. So mag-import sila, smuggling, hindi nire-report kasi we are protecting our farmers, di ba? May tax yan mataas ang tax natin So may incentive para sila magpalusot, and then they will make so much profit dahil yung volume napakalaki. Alam mo yung bawang in China is only 10 pesos per kilo. Ang binebenta rito 200, 180 to 200. You imagine the kind of profit they make when they bring in sibuyas. So, these are things we have to consider. Why can't we produce at 20 pesos? Kung 20 pesos na ang cost natin, siguro hindi na sila mag-smuggle, Dahil mataas na rin yung because the cost is low. So that is a challenge.
Yeah, but hindi man stop yung smuggling sa SBMA, boss.
Sorry kasi ang request ng mga speakers, naka-urban farming daw tayo. Sorry kasi limited time.
Related to urban farming.
Sorry.
Why is it that urban farming is not taking off? Is it due to smuggling?
Sorry.
To be fair, urban farming, and again in relation to vertical farming, is relatively new globally. And so its adoption in many countries, including here in the Philippines, is just starting. So that's a really fair assessment of that. But I just want to add one thing, please, and this is very much related to urban farming as well. I think that in the Philippines, there's a need to reimagine the farmer, because there's a stereotypical concept of the farmer as one who is poor, uneducated, doesn't know anything about science, and again, smallholders farm. That needs to change, and this is relevant in terms of how the government sets policies and how it treats the local farmers. We need to reimagine the Filipino farmer as an entrepreneur. So they are part of the business sector. It's just that they're not properly empowered yet. But they are part of the private sector. So they're entrepreneurs, and so they need to be empowered as such. And they will play a key role in the food security of the country. Thanks.
Thank you. May tanong,
Thank you, Sir Lito. Actually, sir, you can check it. Siguro sa administration na to, isa sa pinakamalaki ang sakote, anti-smuggling drives natin. You can check it. Even dun sa Subic, marami tayong nahuli. Marami tayo, sir, nahuli doon. And I think yung mga nahuli natin doon has yung food safety concerns. Kaya ang nabanggit niya ni sir, mababa nga po yung production. Pero sir, kung hindi natin na-check yun, wala siyang import clearances. Yun ay medyo delikado. As for the uptake ng yung pag-take off ng urban farming, I think, sir, it has been on an increase. We have thousands, especially dito sa lungsod ng Quezon City. Just this start of last week, sir, may mga 80,000 participants na sila, urban farmers, mga 4,000 farms, I think, and that's only for Quezon City. Kung i-compute mo yan, sir, sa buong Pilipinas where the program is being implemented, sir, malaking bagay na rin, sir. I'm not saying, again, it will replace the food production from the rural areas, but yung mga urban farms natin, like yung mga nandito sa Quezon City, yung mga nandyan sa Taguig, it can be a gateway for where, okay, may production tayo ng ganito, we can also source it from the rural areas where we can solve, sir, yung mga middleman problem siguro natin. But again, yung urban agriculture, sir, can be a complement again kasi pabababain niya yung logistics cost. Yung concern kanina ni sir about yung freshness ng gulay, kung bugbog na yung gulay from kung saang lugar yan, biyahin mo in hours, mahina yung post-harvest, packaging mo and cold storages, talagang hindi na fresh. But with the urban farms, you can pick it from the farms here within the day, you can deliver to the market. So yun po, sir, ang ating benepisyo naman, ating urban farming.
To the question of Mr. Gagni, it takes many sustained efforts, many programs or projects to see to it that this is taking off again, in a big way. And I'd like to mention 2 to 3 projects of Go Negosyo along this area. Number one, last Saturday, we piloted a youthpreneurship program of Go Negosyo at SM Fairview. We had about 350 students na mentor. Again, with the intent of sustaining an entrepreneurial mindset. And most of them are from Metro Manila. So yun, bringing the youth to love agriculture this early will enhance the implementation of programs like urban and peri-urban agriculture. Number two, we have a signing ceremony today by 7 o'clock tonight. A memorandum of agreement will be signed between Go Negosyo, Joey Concepcion, and DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte at Marco Polo. Again, to institutionalize agri-business subjects in the curriculum of special high schools in DepEd. At the same time, another project is the enhancement of school gardening in the school areas. Ang dami pong maluluwang na mga school areas na pwedeng gawin na gardens, school gardens, again, under the framework of a business proposition. So ganun po, tuloy-tuloy dapat lahat ng sektor, lahat ng society, one way or the other, will have to contribute sustaining the importance of urban and peri-urban agriculture.
Anong name, pakilala?
Good morning, sir. Benya Cariaso from the Philippine Star, sir.
Yes.
Para kay Director Glenn, sabi ni Secretary earlier, limited lang yung budget na inaalat ng government para sa urban farming. So how much yung inalat natin for this year and next year?
Yes.
And then second, sir, yung issue ng El Nino, makakatulong ba itong urban farming para ma-address nga yung problem natin ngayon na meron tayong problema sa El Nino. And then para kay Secretary Dar, sir, na-mention nyo na 60 kilos lang annually ang average na kinukonsume ng Filipino family. Ano yung reason nun? Dahil ba mataas yung presyo o yung lack of knowledge nila sa nutrients na ibinibigay ng vegetables? Thank you.
May connected question si Ms. Goto from Mindanao.
Mabel. Sir, is there an item, Sir Director, sa budget natin on specifically urban, sabi niya, farming, peri-farming? How much? And Secretary, is that enough? Yung binigay natin na pera. I have to make paalam after you answer, sirs. I have to travel to Korea din, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Women and Security naman. I just like to mention to our fellow media po na it is the commemoration namin December sa Iligan Industrial City of the Philippines. December was the worst tragedy flooding that killed 1,000, Sendong. 1,300 or so lives na tulog kami sa gabi, 11. Tapos bigla na lang ragasa. And there's President suspicion or cause to the effect na dahil sa tree planting or kulang na tree planting na director, trumagasa yung tubig from the mountains of Lanao, where I'm from, Lanao del Sur, towards Iligan, Cagayan de Oro. At tulog yung tao sa gabi, bigla na lang taas ng tubig, wala na. So my question, actually, the proposal of Women in Iligan City, Sir Director, to DA Secretary Nabago, is that nagbibigay pa kayo ng pondo ba direct sa cooperatives na hindi nahihirapan sila sa one-stop shop or is there one-stop shop requirement? Because, sir, ang dala ko dito, sir, sabi ng mga kababaihan sa Iligan, which is nga the industrial city of the Philippines, magkano mamang allotted sa ating babae? Paano namin malalaman? Paano kami lalapit? Palagi naman ganun, sir, as from farmer women Kung mahirap sa lalaking farmer, mas mahirap sa babaeng farmer na ang problema niya magpakain sa bahay. Household ang concern namin. So from a disaster place, we propose to you this concerns.
Cut it out budget.
Okay, thank you. Okay, from kasi first time namin last year 2023 around 400 M lang yun, and I think naman na-sustain lang yun din this year 430. So medyo tumaas ang konti. So naandoon ang level natin kasi nga bago pa siyang program. But yung impact niya, yan, nababanggit nyo tungkol sa El Nino, nabanggit kanina ni Dr. Cuello na maaari nating ma-minimize yung ating gasto sa tubig. Kasi pagka nag-urban farming or peri-urban farming, meron tayong mga precision agriculture na ginagamit, na minimize yung medyo strategic yung pagbibigay ng nutrients sa mga halaman. So ibig sabihin, medyo nakakabawas siya. Second, kung sa drought nga, medyo kung controlled environment siya, hindi ka masyadong apektado of the elements, drought man yan o bagyo. Siguro, sasagot ko na rin kay ma'am. Regarding sa gender, ma'am, hindi ako masyadong sa specifics on that budget, but you would be surprised, urban farmers, siguro nasa 70% po, 75% ay babae. Opo, lalo dito sa Quezon City, ihahatid nila mga bata sa school, mag-urban farming sila, yung produce nila, bibenta nila sa talipapa. And then, ayun. Siguro yung sinasabi ninyo rin kanina, paano masusustain? Ayan, nandito ko yung media. Hopefully matulungan nyo kami. Mga Pilipino, kumakain pa kayong gulay? Kumakain pa kayo? Oh. Ang ating plate, kung ano yung bilog na yon, di ba? Mostly anong nandun? Kanin, karne, di ba? But ang ano sana natin is, sabi nga, galing din ako World Vegetable Center. Ang sabi, of the 8 billion na tao, 2 billion ay obese. Oh, so stomach in ako ngayon para hindi makita aking bilbil. Pero yun nga, siguro tulungan nyo rin kami mag-disseminate yung information. We're doing it with the private sector also. Yun nga, yung sa Nestle, yung kanilang mga mix, pero alam natin, yun, i-mix natin yun with kinisang gulay, di ba? May mga cooking show tayo to you know. And yun nga, ma'am, mga kababaihan, kasama natin dyan. Kasi kayo naman ma'am, kahit nga mga kalalakihan, napapasunod nyo yung mga bata pa kaya. Di ba? From the household level. Yes. So, kami naman po sa government, you were asking yung direct monetary, siguro hindi ko po masasagot yan. But yung interventions po ng Department of Agriculture, kung kayo po ay organisadong grupo, maaari po kayong sumulat sa amin o sa aming mga programa. Sa aming High Value Crops, ma'am, meron tayong mga kababaihang organisasyon na sinusuportahan. Kung pagugulay man yan, o fruits, o kung ano man, kung gusto nyo mag-processing, we can also refer you to the proper
May free
agencies.
seedlings pa daw, tanong ng media.
Ayun.
Today daw may free seedlings sa lahat ng media.
Mag-ano lang po kayo, mag-request po kayo, kung yan naman po yung ina-assess. Siyempre, kung tutulong, hindi lang po yan free na interventions. Kami po ay nagpapatraining din. Just last week, nagpa-training kami doon sa bandang Nueva Ecija for women's group. Malaking grupo rin po. So yan po, dahil nga po kayo ay makapangyarihan. Ayan, susunod kami sa inyo. Salamat po.
May tanong naman.
Kampanya, the culture, the attitude has to change. That it is much healthier to eat vegetables and fruits rather than Western foods. Now, dun sa budget naman, tinanong ng ating kapatid, is it enough? Well, it's not yet enough with the many programs for high-value agriculture and the new PAP ay hindi pa enough ito, dapat dagdagan pa.
What is the ideal amount daw? Tanong nila.
Okay, I will talk about broadly Philippine agriculture. When I was there, the budget of Philippine agriculture in 2022 is only 1.5% of the whole national budget. While you compare that with the other countries in ASEAN, the top 5, ay nasa 4 to 6% na sila. Now, with the coming in of President Marcos, dadagdagan. Okay? Sabihin natin pumunta sa 1.75% of the national budget. However, again, comparing ourselves with our ASEAN economies ay kukunti pa rin. Dapat we should be at the minimum of 3% and as high as 6%. So, dagdagan pa natin.
Very good answer. May tanong pa dito. Pakiabot yung microphone, please. May tanong din dito, si Dr. Pedro daw, you as a private sector farmer on the side, what vegetables or crops do you suggest naman based on your personal experience as a farmer? You mentioned the name of the plant kanina na...
Lettuce. I like also yung tarragon. Sino
Why
nagdala rito?
tarragon?
Herbs.
Yes,
Kayo
galing kay
nagdala?
Dr. Glenn.
Oh, tarragon dapat gawin natin tea. Napakasarap ang tarragon tree, tea. Nasubukan niyo yung tarragon? Wala.
Not yet. Not yet as tea.
Wala. Oh. Andiyan oh, subukan niyo. Huwag niyong kainin ha. Pang tea.
Pang tea yan.
Napakasarap niyan ano. Nilagay ko sa coffee, masarap din eh. There are so many varieties of herbs that you can also plant, especially for urban, that you can privately consume and perhaps kasi high value crop ang herbs, unlike lettuce or the other may yung fluctuation of prices goes up and down
Can you mention the herbs,
regularly.
Dr.
So
Pedro?
I like lettuce, okay?
Lettuce.
Ginagamit natin eh.
Tarragon?
Ang problema yung mga fast food natin, puro Chicken Joy, walang vegetable eh.
Wala
Ano
nang
yun?
vegetable.
French fries, dapat salad, di ba?
Dapat
Green salad should be the
Yes.
main ingredient or main product in the menu of our fast food companies. Wala eh. Chicken Joy ang hinahanap. Hamburger ang hinahanap. Puro mga westernized, as you said, Secretary Dar. So, it's education. Galing po sa DepEd siguro, pag-usapan namin yan. We're meeting Secretary or Vice President Sara day after tomorrow. We'll take this up with them. But aside from vegetable consumption, the science of producing our food production should be part of it, di ba? There is a science needed. It's AI. Alam niyo yung AI? Artificial Intelligence. Galing ko sa Korea, puro mga AI ang pinag-usapan. Hindi na yung mano-mano, hindi na yung manual. It's all about intelligence. It's all about technology needed to make our country in the next level. To make our country competitive. Kailangan mag-compete tayo. Pag talo tayo sa production cost, talo. Wala tayong mabibentahan. Alam mo yung production ng agriculture, dalawang sektor yan. One is for local consumption, the other one is for exports. Ang laki po yung market for exports. Pag-isipan natin, anong gusto natin? Mangoes, wala tayong problema. Ang problema natin, production. Kulang ang mangoes natin. Kulang na kulang. Why? Because we need huge land. And land is expensive now to plant mangoes. You have to wait at least 5 years. Pag yung mga problema pinag-usapan, walang katapusan yan. Kaya, pag-usapan natin, ano ang dapat gawin natin para magkaroon ng food security. Ano yung food security? Vegetable is one. Animal production. Production of, tawag niyan, yung poultry, isa yan. Baboy, isa rin yan. Magkano na ang karne ngayon? Karne ng baboy? Hindi nila alam. 350. Oh, 350. Egg beef. Magkano ang beef? Baka. 400. Biro mo. Yung kawawa yung mga workers di ba? How can they afford to buy those products? Yung galunggong natin, magkano na ngayon? Hindi kayo kumakain ng galunggong, ano?
220 daw sabi ni
200 plus. Oh,
220 daw.
galunggong. Everything, tama na. Saka na. So, bakit?
kulang ang production natin. If we produce enough, prices will come down. The key is production, production, production. How do you produce more? You have to mechanize, you need a big land, you need cooperative, you need technology, you need the proper seeds, the proper rainfall. So, tama na yung problema natin. Basta kaya natin, kung magiging priority natin ang food production. Make it a priority. Tanggalin natin yung mga hindrances, yung mga problema, kung meron man, i-address natin. Ang negosyante, hindi takot sa problema. Ang takot ng negosyante, walang market. Hindi maibenta yung produkto namin. Yan ang nakakatakot. Kaya pumasok ako sa toothpaste, kaya lahat kayo nagsisipilyo, di ba? Happy ba kayo? Hindi.
May regalo daw si Dr. Pedro mamaya, Larissa, di ba?
Okay, thank you.
Ay, yes. Mamaya may regalong, I'd like to acknowledge, before the question, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Suki dito, the famous columnist, Professor Alex Bagdo, columnist of Philippine Star. Thank you for coming. Yes. Ayun, dito pala. Thank you. Ikaw nakasalamit. Thank you, Professor Alex Bagdo, the famous columnist.
Magandang umaga. Emeritus sa farmer din. Galing sa farmer family pala. Alam niyo, ang academician ay naturally skeptic, So hindi kami basta-basta naniniwala. And so I will take the posture of both a supporter of peri-urban and urban agriculture as well as a devil's advocate. And I hope you don't mind. So ang sa akin lang ay gusto kong makita yung buong picture ng urban agriculture, vertical farming. What nating ang ipakita lang natin ay yung maganda, because I think all of us have experienced yung boom and bust. Pag unang technology, hey, maganda yan, without really showing yung both the pessimistic side at saka yung optimistic side. Laging mabango. We don't show the whole picture. Halimbawa, tignan natin yung value chain ng mga technology, Ay na-mention ni Dr. Pedro yung profitable ba ito? Sabi naman ni Dr. Glenn, may future ba ito? I think my future, if put in the right context, if put in the right place. Ang akin lang, I think, ito ay kailangan siguro nating baby steps pala. Baby steps muna tayo. And then, nasabi ni Dr. Pedro na tama naman, if you want to be in business, the bottom line is profitability. Di ba? And we all agree to that. Ang sa akin naman, siguro, while we are taking the baby steps of adapting itong ating urban agriculture, wag muna natin siguro munang isipin big profits. Think of it as a part of your corporate social responsibility. Na habang dinidevelop natin ito, ay it could be a little bit of a loss. But in the future, pag ito ay na-develop, magkakaroon din ng profit. Okay? So, yung isa pa, instead of value chain, yung life cycle assessment ng technology natin. Gaano bang power ang kinocontain nito? Ang controlled environment ay double-edged sword yan. Yes, you can control, walang effect ang climate change, but it's so costly naman. So kung hihikayatin natin si Dr. Pedro na mag-invest dyan, how much will it cost me? Okay, so my question is this. Do we already have an LCA assessment for vertical farming, and how is it looking in terms of yung power consumption, in terms of carbon emission, and in terms of cost?
Naka-aircon daw ba yan? Or do you have that inside the building?
Yes.
Indoor?
So thank you for asking that question, because that's really the key question when we go into indoor farming, particularly vertical farming. As I mentioned, with vertical farming, the benefits are You save on water, you save on land, you're able to produce at maximum or optimal yield 24/7, 365 days a year, independent of climate, weather, geography, season. But you pay for it in one thing, and that is electricity or energy. Because you control the temperature, you control the lighting, you control the relative humidity. So I would like to thank the Department of Science and Technology through its Balik Scientist program, which I spent at Eastern Visayas State University, where I addressed this directly with my colleagues over at EBSU. And so we designed architectures of modular vertical farms that are using locally available materials. And so that saved tremendously in terms of costing of the materials. Because if you buy a shipping container, it's still expensive for regular farmers. But if you design a modular unit using available materials that can be transported in the event of inclement or super typhoons, you save a lot of money on that. Then, in terms of the energy, we also developed a cooling system, because in the Philippines, it's not heating, it's the cooling that is essential. We developed a cooling system that is low cost and is appropriate for the Philippines, based on solar energy, of course, photovoltaics. That would really lower down the energy cost of controlling the environment inside these original growing systems. So we are addressing those. They have done feasibility study, because I'm not an economist. My colleagues at EBSU have done economic analysis, feasibility studies, and it is feasible. And in terms of the life cycle analysis, that's still in progress, but it is being conducted. So thank you.
Thank you. Patanong nila to the experts in the panel, can roofs of buildings be transformed into farms? Can roofs of big buildings, public schools, factories, may possible ba yan? And number two, sabi dito, can you encourage vacant subdivision lands and vacant playgrounds, public school, yung mga vacant na puro grass lang, can you plant that? And another question, sorry, what vegetables can you plant in balconies, in small gardens in the house, na walang mga puro lupa lang sa damo? What can you recommend to ordinary people? Balconies of townhouse, balconies of condos, and transforming rooftops ba pwede? Please advise now.
Okay, sige. Directly responding to that, actually we have a partnership with a big chain of malls. Again, pwede ba sir? Yung SM malls natin, we have a partnership with them.
Wow.
Pinahiram nila yung kanilang rooftops dito sa North EDSA, dito sa East Ortigas and other malls, ano?
Starting na.
They did container farming there, container gardening sa mga rooftops. And well, naging successful yon with their in-house. Now they're training doon sa mga communities around those malls, ano? Yung kasama yun yung SM Foundation doon, ano, sa pagte-train.
So pwede yun.
So pwede. Number one, so pwede. Pangalawa, sir, yung sa mga vacant lots.
Yes, mga subdivision lots na vacant.
Yes. We have transformed actually a lot of those vacant lots and subdivisions, and even yung mga schools kasama.
Schools, public schools,
yes,
universities.
Sir, yung extreme of the extreme, dati
yes,
meron kami sa Payatas, meron kami doon sa Smoky Mountain. So, kumbaga meron tayong ganon. And pangatlo, sir, yung sir, sa mga condo siguro, yung mga herbs na lang siguro ang inaano natin. Although yung iba nag-green veg, nag-hydroponic sila yan, mga lettuce and other lettuce varieties. Pwede sa mga maliliit na containers, ano? So, ayan, mga sili, madaling alagaan, ano? So, at madaling pitasan.
Yes.
So yan ang ating inaano, with the individuals and the community. Siyempre sir, iba-ibang settings, iba-ibang technologies or varieties ang ating i-grow. So ang kailangan nyo ng tulong o technical assistance.
How do they
even mushrooms pala sir, mushrooms. Oo, even sa mga small
how do they
areas.
contact your office, Bureau of Plant Industry?
BPI.da.gov.ph and our Facebook Bureau of Plant Industry. Paki-check nyo na lang. at pwede kayo mag-message doon. Ang aming opisina ay sa Malate, Maynila, Quirino
Saan Malate?
Avenue, LRT Station.
LRT station lang sa tabi?
Opo, Quirino Avenue. And then dito sa Elliptical Road.
Meron din dyan. Si Professor Alex Magdo, baka may tanong kayo, just in case. Sa media, sumusulat ng column sa Philippine Star, baka may tanong kayo. May microphone. Baka may tanong sila or comment. Professor, columnist sa Philippine Star.
Hi, good morning. We might be dancing around the problem kasi ang basic problem natin, maliit yung mga tabas ng lupa, di ba?
Yung sabi ni Dr. Pedro, saka ni Dr. Dark.
Yeah, the reason why yung agriculture natin is trapped in subsistence level is land reform. Yan ang dahilan why the cost of producing rice is high.
No economies of scale.
Because it's uneconomical. Ganun din. Ako nagtatanim ako sa biranda ko pero...
sa biranda nila.
Pero ang investment mo doon, executive time, no? Tapos di mo naman mabebenta sa palengke yan dahil kokonti. No?
Ano tinatanim niyo, Professor Magda?
Lahat. Kamatis mainly.
Kamatis. Yes.
Pero pinamimigay ko kung sobra sa personal consumption. So walang market incentive to do garden, backyard farming or rooftop farming. Except as a form of entertainment. Kailangan natin market-driven na solusyon dito sa production natin.
Thank you, Dr.
Professor Alex, yes, I agree with what you have mentioned. Actually, this was discussed already, the case for our land holdings. Masyadong maliliit, 1 hectare, even lower than that. Ilocos region, wala pang mga 3/4 hectare na lang. So, walang economies of scale, number one. And the productivity of these small land holdings are really very low. So, yung production ay hindi natin maitaas kasi hindi gumagamit ng mechanization which they cannot afford when the land holdings are too little. And so we need this clustering approach which is now ongoing at the Department of Agriculture in all respect. We introduced that 3 years ago. And there is also, I understand, that the land reform program then and now skilled corporate farming. And so if we want to support to some degree corporate farming, then we have to increase the land retention limit today. Mayroon proposal both Negosyo and FEF na why not do it 24 hectares or 25 hectares based on the resettlement program ng dating gobyerno nung nakaraan, Magsaysay or kung sino yung presidente sa Mindanao, yung resettlement areas ay 24 hectares. So in that way, I think it would be good for the government really to consider removing that land retention limit at all.
Sir, do we have numbers on how much of the plots, family-sized plots, have been abandoned? Kasi
Or
ako anecdotal, pag umuwi ako sa bayan ng tatay ko sa Nueva Ecija, ang daming lupang abandonado. Tapos ang nagkakaroon lang ng bagong bahay doon, yung Japayuki. No? So, walang agriculture. No? Nagpapatakbo ng local economy doon, migrant workers. So yung abandoned lands na yun could be organized in some way siguro although I'm sure the cost will not be economical.
Sir, thank you po. Your comments are on urban agriculture na maaaring napakaliit. But again, yung nabanggit po kanina na controlled environment farming na ginagawa na dito sa atin, sir. Actually, we have in Makati and Taguig. although iba yung ano niya, sir, iba yung market niya, mga hotels na, and ano, but at least there's proof na it can be feasible, ano, it can be done. Sir, pangalawa, sir, on the agrarian reform beneficiary, sir, maybe sa DAR na natin yun, although si Secretary hindi na ito. Pero, sir, ang akin lang comment doon is, yun nga, i-compliment ko rin yung sabi ni sir kanina. Sir, meron tayong programa using government lands, you know? Yung nabanggit ko po kanina, yung sa Iwahig natin, although it's peri-urban area.
Gaano kalaki?
Sir, pinahiram sa atin ng DOJ doon, Bureau of Corrections, 500 hectares for a pilot for vegetable farming, for fruits and for palay and for corn. So it could be a start, sir. Kasi sir, yun nga ang challenge, yung clustering. 1 hectare each, ang hirap ni-organisa niyan. Daan-daan yan. So with that, nandun na tayo, sir. And it's an island economy na pwede niyang anuhan. So may market siya.
Sabi niyo, Bilibid also.
Sir, dito sa Muntinlupa, meron tayong kapraso dyan. Although mga 10-20 hectares na for vegetable farming. Yun nga, sir, makabawas siya sa gastos ng gobyerno kung maging efficient siya doon sa communities around it. But sir, I think it's a start that we can build upon. At marami naman, sir, tayo. Yan, marami tayong universities, marami tayong army camps na
Army camps na ano po.
Salamat po, sir.
Tuwing natatalo ako sa golf, yung mga player doon sa veterans na
Puro gold.
i-advocate kong vertical farming na lang yung lupa ng veterans.
Good idea, magagalit golfer sa iyo.
Yeah, right at the center of the city, ang laki ng lupa.
Sir, nakita ko lang din yung shirt nyo, Michelle. Dati partner natin doon. Nagtitrain sila, sir, mga farmers. Actually, meron sila dyan dati sa Rizal at sa Palawan, medyo natigil na lang yata. So yun, sir, we are really encouraging the private sector participation with all the work of the government. Kasi alam naman namin, di naman namin kaya mag-isa ang food security. Dapat yun, trabaho natin lahat ito. Salamat po.
Thank you. Baka we have time for closing statements. Kung wala nang tanong. Ay, may tanong pa dito sa likod. Pakiabot lang. Nasa likod, nasa kaliwa. We have time for 1 or 2 last questions kasi it's a holiday. We will serve lunch to everyone. Thank you.
I'm Baby. I'm Luisa Garcia from Filipino Mirror. So one question is it possible for a community for urban farming to work together if you are to organize them, and what strategies would you recommend for this community to work together to come up with urban farming? Aside from having this as a means of livelihood for a certain organization, for example, if in their smaller areas they can organize themselves to come up with one specific kind of crops, is it possible to do that? But what strategies would you recommend?
Yeah, thank you. On that, organization, mainly kaya ang aming partners is LGUs, for example, dito sa NCR. We have memorandums of agreement with them para at least yung ibinibigay ng government sa kanila ay nafa-follow through natin. Ayaw naman natin, basta na lang tayo nagbigay. And with the interventions, we have trainings. Pagkatapos nun, malaman natin sino yung mga grupo na masisipag. Again, dito sa Quezon City, meron sila doon, farmers organizations, nakakapag-produce sila at nakakapagbenta sila doon sa City Hall. So meron silang mga ganon. So yun nga, nababanggit yun at payo naman din ito ni Dr. Cuello before. It's really organize those groups. Like sa Pasig, rooftop nila, mga magsisili yung mga yan, mahilig. So meron na silang organization, although ang ano nila, maliit na market lang, it could start with that. Ano? If matrain pa sila ng CDA o mga ibang ahensya ng government on how to be, sustain their entrepreneurial activity, why not? Kung may processing pa nga, sir, banggitin ko sana sa mga toothpaste, baka meron pwedeng toothpaste, hot pepper.
Oo, si Dr. Pedro.
Parang gising ka kagad. With those initiatives, hindi lang basta namigay, we want to sustain these, organize them, para naman, at least, in the future, hindi lang masabi, ay, basta na lang, after and then after. Yes, yeah. Ayun, yung isa sa mga effective na ways namin na organize yung mga farmer groups namin is yung Philippine Good Agricultural Practice natin. Ano? Kami ang nagsa-certify nun sa BPI. So pag na-organisa yung farmer group, anumang tanim nila, sibuyas, gulay, o prutas, yun ay sinecertify namin, ano, kung maganda ba ang kanilang pagkakaproduce. Pagka sila ay organisado at certified, pwede namin silang i-endorse sa ating mga partners. Like yun nga, nabanggit ko kanina, in Jollibee, sinusuplayan sila ng isang kooperatiba. Yung ibang ating sa Batangas, halimbawa sa Robinsons Group. So, hindi lang ito nakikita kasi masyado ng ating media, pero yun ang ating direksyon, ng ating gobyerno. Kasi gaya ni Sir, siguro sawan-sawa na rin kami sa mga storya na gano'n na may programa pumalpak, But this time, yun nga, entrepreneurship, tuturuan namin sila how to be agribusinessmen, and professionally manage yung mga organizations na yun. Thank you.
One question papadala natin sa panelists natin for other questions. We'd now like to request all our panelists to give us closing statements to summarize their ideas and their appeal about urban and peri-urban farming in the Philippines. Unahin natin si Dr. William D for his closing statement to summarize how do we implement urban farming and why.
Much have been said about the critical importance of urban and peri-urban agriculture. This is complementary to the high-value crops agriculture coming from various provinces. Of course, majority still of the supply will come from that type of operation. But we can say that significant level of production coming from urban and peri-urban will really complement much more the very requirements of metro cities like Metro Manila. So kung lahat po ng metro cities in various provinces in the country ay mayroon itong programa na national urban and peri-urban agriculture, this really will be a big way to ensuring vegetable and fruit production for the whole society. Again, let's make Philippine agriculture as a business proposition. Hindi na lang po yung magtanim tayo na hindi gumagamit ng teknolohiya o innovation, but also having to organize ourselves, cluster ourselves into cooperatives so that we can partner with private sector, mas lalo na yung nasa big business champions na may puso at damdamin na gustong mag-partner din sa mga kooperatiba o mga farmers association. And once you do that partnership, then you will now be a part of the value chain system. Wala ka ng problema in terms of the market because all of your produce, as lalo na kung may volume at quality, will be absorbed by the private sector. And we continue to mentor. I mean, mentoring is key to sustaining also this urban and peri-urban agriculture at all levels in schools, even barangays, provinces, of course municipalities. Dapat ang LGUs ay tumaya na rin dito sa NUPAP na ito kung may mga syudad doon sa mga probinsya. Of course, agriculture in a broader respect is a responsibility of the local government units. Na-devolve na po ito. Wala nang technicians ang Department of Agriculture, hanggat regional level na lang sila. And that's why DA has to continue nurturing that partnership with the local government units at the provincial, city, and municipal level. We have to properly resource Philippine agriculture so that, again, with the idea that we can make agriculture profitable and competitive, with the significant budget given by government. Sabi po natin in closing na ang agrikultura ay napabayaan, neglected all these how many years already, 50 years. It has been neglected, under-budgeted by government, and under-invested by private sector. Now, this is the time to call upon all the stakeholders to come forward and be part of the solution.
Thank you very much, Dr. Director siya of Bureau of Plant Industry, Director also of the High Value Crops Development Program. But today here, most important, he is the Director of the National Urban and Peri-Urban Agriculture Program of the Department of Agriculture. For his closing statement, Dr. Gerald Panganiban.
Thank you, Sir Wilson. And thank you sa ating lahat. Of course, our panel of experts here lending their voice and support to the Urban Agriculture Program. Again, this is a very humble ang beginning. Sabi nga, very small pa ang scale. But I think with the collaboration of national government, local governments, and of course, all of you nandito, private sector, and social enterprises, we can push this forward. I mean, it does not, again, serve as a replacement to rural production, but it can be a gateway for our farmers' production na nasa mga rural areas. Akin lang, moving forward, again, it's how we support the program. Sana tulungan nyo kami sa media, kumain ng gulay, sustansyang diets, kasi yun na ang ating kailangan moving forward. Kung magiging habit natin ito at ng ating mga pamilya, I think malaki. If we don't have the market yet, maybe we can create the market for it. And of course, yun nga, with the innovations and technologies, baka yung mga untapped market na binabanggit ng ating mga experts, not only the local markets but also the export markets ay ating makamit. We of course always encourage your help and spread the good news about the program and about the activities of the government, kasi I think that alone is a big deal, kasi ma-inspire na natin ang mga tao to move forward. Di tayo pwedeng nakahintay lang tayo and then things happen. We need to be more proactive and engage each other. So maraming salamat po at mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Move to the next speaker. I'd like to acknowledge pala mga tanong ng mga media na hindi natin nasagot kasi walang time. Mr. Berlin Ruiz of People's Tonight, and also Victor Valdemar Ruiz of Filipino Mirror, and others. Marami pang mga tanong na we will submit to the Director Panganiban. Next, we have as our for closing statement, Dr. Cecilio Pedro, President siya of Federation of Filipino Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Inc., FFCCCIII, representing the private sector. And before his closing statement, I'd like to announce na magbibigay siya ng free happy toothpaste to all the media guests here, kasama sa Pandesal gift natin, as expression of his support and FFCCCIII support for the urban farming and peri-urban farming program. Dr. Cecilio K. Pedro, for your closing statement.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson, yan ang tawag namin sa kanya, for this very important topic which we discussed thoroughly this morning, specifically about urban farming. I have 3 pointers as my closing statement. Importante po yung long-term strategy. Ang agriculture is not gonna happen overnight. We have to invest, we have to look at the future, and we have to look at the potentials. We have 110 million population, one of the biggest in Southeast Asia. In fact, we're number 2 next to Indonesia. Napakaraming Pilipino. Kailangan kumain, kailangan may pagkain. So ano ang gagawin natin to make our food security stable, sustainable? Kailangan po natin pagkain yan, whether it's rice, whether it's vegetable, whether it's meat production,
kailangan may strategic planning, strategic move. And hopefully the government with the leadership of PBBM will put now more focus on agriculture. Agriculture is very, very important. Aside from, of course, education. Yeah? We have to educate our younger generation on the importance of food production. Ang mga kababataan natin, ayaw nila maging farmers. Bakit? Napakahirap maging farmers. Pero hindi naman lahat ng farming is, urban farming is a different animal, it's a different story. It's not only for profit, it's also for your own security. You can produce food. I don't have to buy vegetable. I just go to the farm, collect vegetable, and come home, and my wife and family can enjoy the food. Urban farming is a right direction for urban people. Yung mga probinsya, taga-probinsya, yung mga outside of urban areas, pag-isipan natin ano ang dapat gawin natin. Specifically on land. Land reform is about government lands, not private lands. There are still government lands available. How do we put it together, as mentioned by Secretary Dar and our director, how do we maximize, di ba? Put them together for some farmers to go in and produce, or even subsidize them with good seeds, with good technology, and even mechanization. This is another area where we should look into. And the third area is the private sector. Like the Federation, we are willing to invest in agriculture for the future of this country. Agriculture is still the biggest employer. Ang dami po nagtatrabaho sa agri. So we have to generate employment, to generate income, to help our economy move forward, to elevate our economy. Pag maganda ang economy natin, maganda rin ang negosyo. Lalaki din ang negosyo namin. So we want Philippines to move forward. That is crucial for businessmen. Pag bumagsak ang economy natin, baksak din ang negosyo namin. So it's the key. We want this to happen in the Philippines. I came from Korea, I came from China, I came from Japan. All over the other countries, they are looking into agriculture as a means of food security. Huwag natin pabayaan ito. And also, the business as a whole. Please remember, we are not only here to make profits. That is not correct. I employ the hearing impaired in my factory. Kaya kung bumisita kayo sa factory namin, tahimik, walang chismis, dahil mga pipi ang employee namin. Okay? Bakit? Tumutulong kami sa mga people with disabilities. Kailangan. Sila po ay tao rin tulad ninyo at tulad namin. Kailangan ng trabaho. Kailangan may income. Kasi may pamilya din sila. So kami naniniwala, we should also help people with disabilities. At the end of the day, we are all Filipino. We are here in this beautiful country. Let's make this country a better place for us and for the future, for more and more Filipinos to come. Alam niyo, masyadong romantic ang Pilipino, where we have the highest population growth in the region, more than 2%. How do we feed them? How do we feed them? How do we sustain them? It's agriculture. It's employment. It's, at the end of the day, it's their income that will make you and me. Kailangan tulungan natin. Malaki po ang role ng media. Malaki po ang role ng government. Malaking ang role ng private sector. The academe. Everybody is involved. We are in this boat together. If we sink, if the boat sinks, everybody sinks with the boat. Diba? We are in the same boat, so to speak. So magtulungan tayo, maghanap tayo ng paraan para umunlad ang Pilipinas. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Mr. Happy to Dr. Cecilio Pedro for his closing statement. Last but not the least, we have from academe, a scientist from University of Arizona and also International Association for Vertical Farming Vice Chairman, Professor Dr. Joel Cuello, for his closing statement about urban farming and peri-urban farming.
Thank you so much. I just want to make a few quick points. The first point is, again, everybody today on the planet is concerned about food security, and the Philippines is not an exception. And I believe that everybody became fully aware of this during the pandemic, right? Because the supply chain, the food supply chain got disrupted. And so some people had difficulty accessing food. And so as part of fostering food security, it's really important for the country, the Philippines, to develop urban and peri-urban agriculture, because that helps in localizing crop production, vegetable production, and food production. So from the point of view of resilience and food security, it is crucially important. That's one. Second is, it's a great business opportunity, right, for local farmers, for local growers, because there's a demand for it. The demand for locally produced vegetables, crops, the demand is real. And there is a market for it, as was emphasized by Dr. Pedro here. So there's a real demand for fresh vegetables that can be met, and this is where urban, peri-urban agriculture, including vertical farming, can play a key role. And it's not only local demand, but we're talking about global demand as well. So this is an avenue for export as well for the country that really has not been really properly pursued yet. But it's a great opportunity, an export opportunity for the Philippines. And last but not least, I want to thank the members of the press for being here. Because as was mentioned, you play a key role, because you really are key in terms of shaping the image of the 21st century Filipino growers and farmers. So you have a choice. Do you want to portray them again as helpless farmers, not so educated, not so organized? Or do you want to portray them as the 21st century Filipino farmers who are entrepreneurs, who are organized into cooperatives, and who have the economy of scale as a result, and also the bargaining power? So I think the members of the press have a key role in terms of helping empower the local farmers and the local growers of the country. Thank you.
They have to utilize it. So currently we are reviewing yung mga applications ng mga yon, kasi kailangan nating maging very strict, not only for the sanitary and phytosanitary import clearances, I mean for the safety of the food, but syempre baka merong mga distractions siyang nakikreate sa market, pagka masyadong maraming applications, hindi naman nagagamit. But of course, we are encouraging our importers na talagang yun nga, mag-apply sila, gamitin nila itong mga ito para hindi magkaroon ng distortion ng information sa atin.
Sir, usually ilang days ba dapat kailangan mapalating na yung imported rice pag nabigyan ng SPSIC?
Ang naman natin dyan, it depends pagka mga fresh vegetables, 1 month, pagka mga processed na, mga 60 days, but we're coming up with of course guidelines para mas maging efficient yung ating import arrivals natin.
So sir, tama, BPI has the power then to revoke kapag hindi nila ginagamit.
Kami kasi ang nag-i-issue kami ang nag-i-issue. So kung merong problema, pag may mga non-compliances, of course, pwede natin yung i-revoke kung meron silang offenses. At tinatanong mo kung meron silang repeat, pag nag-offend sila, merong mga penalties yun. It's either ma-revoke yung kanilang accreditation or registration from the office.
Sir, pwede ma-revoke, sir, kapag hindi ginagamit yung permit na hawak nila? Kasi ang binabanggit ng SINAG, yung mga importer ng bigas, dahil mataas ngayon, hindi sila naging import. So, ano nangyayari? Parang they do it at their convenience.
Oo, kaya nga dapat talaga i-explain nila ba't hindi nila na-utilize yung mga import clearances na ina-apply nila. Kasi para saan ba yun? Ano? Of course, we give them yung due process. Of course, para dyan, we are reviewing their current applications, i-review natin ano ba naparating ba talaga nila sa mga sources ito para naman hindi tayo laging nabubulaga pagka may mga issues na nangyayari.
So, dahilan ba yung mataas yung presyo ng bigas, yung imported sa ibang bansa para hindi sila mag-import?
Of course, I cannot comment on that pag sa pricing. Ano? Kami sa BPI, we are concerned with the safety first of the food. Pangalawa, yung supply natin sa market. But with regards to outside forces, hindi na siguro ako makapag-komento dyan. Hindi naman natin yan, hawak. Hindi naman natin.
Sir, is it
pagbaba ng paggamit ng mga import permits, considering na bumaba rin yung ating arrival ng ating imported?
Well, ang atin namang performance, ito naman ay nai-report. We're approaching 2.8 million metric tons na importation ng bigas. As for the specifics nung sa utilization, hindi ko masagot sa inyo, wala akong mahawak na numbers ngayon. But again, we are reviewing that.
Sir, is it correct to say na pinapag-explain na ng BPI yung mga importers on why hindi pa nila napaparating? You've just mentioned that.
Dati na naman natin siyang ginagawa. We rewind them, hindi lang for rice, but for other commodities din.
Sir, sa presyo naman ng volume, sir, 220 na yung retail price na yun ang pinakamataas. Pero parang patuloy yung pagdating ng mga imported. Bakit ganun, sir, ang taas na?
Hindi. Ang sinasabi mo siguro yung sa pila.
Yes,
medyo tumataas na siya, siguro 10 pesos, 20 pesos. But dahil nga tayo ay kino-complement naman natin kasi parang halos paubos na rin yung stocks natin, mga hindi man nilalabas. We are complementing it with the importation na sapat lang for the month, for example.
So, merong dumarating na red and white?
Parating na yun, parating na siguro. Yung white naman, open naman yun sa ngayon dahil wala pa naman tayo season.
So, wala tayong shortings?
Wala.
Pero ano naman yung possible na dahilan bakit medyo tumataas yung pulang
import?
Well, sir, mahirap mag-ano dyan. Baka mamaya mag-misquote nyo naman ako. Basta ang atin dito is we want to have a steady supply of vegetables. Kaya we complement it with the imports. Kung meron naman tayong local production, we help them, connect them to the markets para mas ma-realize yung mga tao ano ba talaga yung tunay na o dapat yung cost ng mga ating bilihin.
Pero option
They can be afforded.
SRP sa sibuyas.
We are not thinking about that. Wala namang pag-uusap.
Pero magkano dapat ang ideal na price ng red onions kung 220?
Example, sir, imported, landed cost.
Well, mababa talaga kung ikukumpara mo sa imported. Pero meron pa kasi mga logistics cost yan. Of course, yung patong pa sa mga retailers and the markets. So ang atin dito, again, if we have that supply, I think that the prices will also.
So, magkano yung ideal, sir?
Ang ideal natin, mamaya paano niyo naman
Hindi,
ako pero ang ating kasing average yung nakikita namin sa mga presyuhan natin is 140 to 160 to 180.
Imported.
Well, yung local pa natin, yung pula. Yung imported, mas mababa yun.
So, mas mababa pa?
Opo. Sir, sabi po ng Sinag, ang landed cost daw 50 pesos, additional logistics 90 pesos.
Ano yan?
Sa imported po na red onion. Tama po ba kung 90 pesos kasama na yung logistic? Tama po ba yung 166 pesos na average price?
I cannot comment on the pricing kasi
pero mahal po ba yun?
Kung ako personally, kaya ko naman yun. But how about the others? So ang ating dyan is, yun nga, kung may supply tayo, and you will see it siguro in the coming days or weeks na magkakasupply na tayo for sure.
Yung garlic, sir, tumaas din 200 na ngayon from 160. Anong cost naman ng pagtaas ng imported?
Usually naman kasi pagka mga holiday season, you can see it through the range of our commodity, no? But ang atin naman dito, ang garlic is continuous naman yan. Ang ating pag-import, mayroon din naman tayong local production. So, we'll see kung anong siguro yung mga market monitors natin, right din kami kung anong and para maitalabas natin itatago o kailangan sa market
So, mga kailan sir, darating imported?
I think by this week, meron na yan.
At makikita na natin yan sa mga
Of course. Ano naman yan, kami naman kasi ina-encourage namin sila, talagang sinusubaybayan namin yung distribution points nila. So hindi na nila pwedeng itago yung mga talagang.
Sir, gaano po kalaki yung for December? Last na lang sir, gaano po kalaking volume yung for December sa
For the
red
month
imported?
kasi, ang ano kasi natin is 21,000 metric tons. So, so ang ano dyan is 4,000 for red, 17,000 for red, 4,000 for yellow. So basically, yun yung averages natin. So,
For December yun.
dapat kasi meron naman tayo dapat laging supply. Enough na. Thank you.